Welcome to the Test Guild Security Podcast, where we all get together to learn more about security testing with your host, Joe Calantonio.
Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Security Podcast. Today we'll be talking with Malek Mohammad all about his Pluralsight course on web application penetration testing, information gathering, and more. We'll probably touch on all other types of security testing topics around pen testing. If you don't know, Malek, he is an information security consultant and penetration testing expert with a bunch of experience around software development. He works on making payment applications more secure through penetration testing and threat modeling. In addition, he's helped many software developers in designing their application with security in mind and not as an afterthought, which I think is really critical now as more and more companies shift left and try to get software out into the hands of their customers. We need to get developers more involved. I think we'll touch on this as well. You don't want to miss this episode. Check it out. It's no secret that the number and complexity of applications are growing. But what is alarming is that 90% of security incidents result from exploits against defects in software. The need for better application security has never been higher, and Micro Focus Fortify is here to help. Fortify is the recognized market leader in application security, and it is the most comprehensive and scalable application security solution that works with your current development tools and processes. With Fortify, you can start security applications in a single day, including custom code, open source, or commercial components, and scale as your needs grow with an on-premise, as-a-service, or hybrid implementation. Check them out. Head on over to microfocus.com/app security. Hey, Malek, welcome to the Guild.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me here on this interesting podcast.
Awesome. Great to have you. Before we get into it, though, is there anything I missed in your bio that you want the Guild to know more about?
No, it's complete.
Very cool. So, in your bio, there was an interesting piece that you put in there saying that you're really interested in helping developers create applications with security in mind. I actually think this is something that's kind of lacking in the industry. So why do you feel so passionate about this? Is this even possible to get developers really to start thinking about security as they're developing their code?
Yeah. Well, I started my career as a software developer, and back then, it was in 2004. There's weren't many knowledge about information security and the vulnerabilities, the hacking. It wasn't prevalent. So also there was a lack of information and awareness for software developers and the engineers. They merely know anything about information security. So nowadays, from I think 10 years and forward, the cyber attacks are increasing with high numbers. Every system is subject to attack. So software developers, they are concerned with getting the task done and keeping up with the deadlines, and maybe they are focus on the quality of the task, maybe on the performance issues. But I think till now, software developers are lacking information security awareness and experience, and secure coding practices that would make the overall product more secure.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about Pluralsight. There's a lot of courses around security now, and I think it's really helpful.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is then, does a company know about this? Like, do companies know, look, we could probably get better security if we can get the developers more involved? Is there still an education that you think is going on that, security is important, not only with the team dedicated to security, but actually having security as part of our software development lifecycle?
Well, yeah. Well, most of the companies are recognizing that right now with the also the increasing attacks after COVID-19 took place. There was massive attacks and massive phishing attacks on humans themselves. So companies are starting to recognize that software developers must have, the sufficient information about information security and secure coding standards, but some of them maybe do not know how to do it or to approach perfection or near to perfection of providing a secure coding environment or a secure development lifecycle with the proper awareness for security for the software developers.
So you were a software developer. You're probably still a software developer at heart, just developing probably security solutions now. So how did you get into security? And maybe that'd be a way that people listening, they could think, oh, maybe I can get my developers more involved because of your experience.
Well, I worked as a software developer. I worked on many development languages. I started on C++, which I love very much, C and C++. I worked on C Sharp, Java. So I started reading about information security and the attacks, the rise of the hackers and how they show them on maybe Hollywood movies, like they are shadowy places and something like that. Well, in real life they are not in shadowy places. They are sitting on desks, and they are focused on many screens. So I like the idea. The more I read on it, it keeps pulling me towards it. So I got certified. I got my first information security. I think it's the EEC Council, CEH. It was back at 2013. It has many information for the learner to know. It has diverse, subjects. It's a very good certificate for beginners. Back then, didn't have virtual machines, the virtual labs as a part of the test. But right now, I think it has the version 10. I think they have added the virtual machines and as a part of the exam. So it's a really good thing if if you discovered your passion for security. You have to read much because there are a ton of information to read. You have to get certified. Then you could switch, inside your company, or you could go to another opening.
So that brings up a good point. It does take a lot of training, a lot of reading, a lot of self-learning. So for companies, big enterprises, is there a way to make their development lifecycle more secure? Like, how do you get developers then to learn? Do you usually have someone embedded on the team that is a security expert that shepherds them, or there are automated tools you have along the automation pipeline now at every stage that kind of tries to bake in security before it gets to when you're just shipping it out to the customer?
Yeah, this is a great topic, Joe. There is a testing framework that could be customized to suit the organization needs towards security. It is the secure development lifecycle. Well, it should be implemented at each company. Each development company, they should have a secure development lifecycle in place. So in brief, it has many phases. So I will talk briefly about each phase and answer your second question about the security expert. So the first phase of the secure development lifecycle is the information gathering or requirement gathering. It is the requirement gathering for the application you are building. So in this phase, the most important thing to make sure all the non-functional security requirements are, all of them are there embedded in the requirements. Also with the functional security requirements, because sometimes the customer, if there is, if this is the business model, so the customer asks for a specific security requirement, so this becomes a functional security requirements. But there are non-functional security requirements like, input validation, vulnerability detection, and also the access control list authentication. Those are the non-functional requirements. So at this phase, you can make sure all the requirements are there, defined for the software developers to start designing their application using those requirements. After the requirements are done, the software development start designing their application. They start maybe drawing diagrams, eliciting, the data flow from the requirements itself. So what the security team could do in that regard is threat modeling. Threat modeling is that a security expert will come to, sit in meetings with the software developers and see all the designs and diagrams. I think exactly the data flow diagrams, and do a threat modeling where the security experts can anticipate security problems in the design itself. So the security problem in the design is called a weakness, and in the implementation, it is called vulnerability. So when they do the threat modeling, the security experts anticipates all the security weaknesses in the design and suggests correction and solutions to the design. Afterwards comes the software development. The development team start, writing code. They start committing it to the source code repository so that the CI/CD does its thing. So at this phase of the software development, static analysis for source code tools called SAST tools. They are tools on the code repository itself that when a software developer commits their code, this tool analyzes the code and see if there are any, security problems or hard-coded keys, concatenating SQL statements, and everything that is related to bad security practices. And it points out all the problems so that the software developers correct that and commit the changes again.
Awesome. Yeah, what I love about it is it sounds like a process that you could fit into any kind of organization.
Yeah.
So whether you're DevOps, Agile, whatever, it seems like it would fit right in easily.
Yeah.
Plug and play for sure.
Yeah. It's, there are a ton of tools on the market. There are open source tools, and it is integratable with the, CI/CD of the, major companies like GitLab or GitHub. So, going forward on the secure development lifecycle, there is the penetration testing cycle. When there is a tangible, installable application for, penetration testers to start hacking. So this is where the penetration testers start searching for vulnerabilities and start to exploit them. And also after they exploit them, they could know the impact that these vulnerabilities have on the system itself. And they report that back to the software development team with solutions and suggestions. And also on this stage, it is also integrated with a DAS tool, dynamic application security testing, where after deployment, configuration management could be tested by this tool, like testing for, allowed HTTP methods, the security headers and responses, all sorts of stuff related to this paradigm. These are, in a brief, the secure development lifecycle. Penetration testing is a defense in depth among all of these other, phases. So going back to your second question, whether the development team should be shepherded by the security expert or it should be one of the software developers. So the software development team could have, a champion. It's called a champion. They have all the necessary awareness for secure coding and vulnerabilities and the proper, certification for that. So this champion, their job is reviewing the code for the rest of the team. And they have to make sure all the source code reviewed in terms of security, and there are no logical security problems in the source code that are not detected by the static application security testing tools.
Nice. So I've never heard of a secure development lifecycle before. Is it the same as DevSecOps? Is it the same principle? Is it a completely different kind of framework?
No, it could be integrated. Secure development lifecycle could be integrated with DevSecOps. The DevSecOps is the operational part of the CI/CD, and which is regarding to the security part of the CI/CD. And the secure development lifecycle, it is the testing framework that the company could customize to adapt to their security needs. And it could be integrated and reflected on the DevSecOps.
Awesome. So now I want to dive in a little bit more into your course, because as you said, education is really critical. And I love how anyone can go to Pluralsight. They definitely should check out your course on web application penetration testing, information gathering. Now, as software engineers, I think we all like to geek out on tools, but what I found interesting about your course was it focuses in on something I usually don't hear about with penetration testing right away is information gathering. So why focus a whole course just on the information gathering piece of the penetration testing lifecycle?
Yeah, because as the saying says, how could you attack your enemy if you don't know them? If you want to attack a target, you should know each and every, information and aspect of that target. Because if you miss anything from the information gathering phase, a testing scenario or attack scenario could be missed when the actual penetration testing, the actual hacking is done. So yeah, this is crucial to know everything about the target you are about to attack.
Great. So the course goes into like 3 or 4 different areas. One of them is using fingerprinting to identify targets. So once again, this is a term I haven't heard before, is fingerprinting. So what is fingerprinting?
Well, fingerprinting is getting to know the architecture behind the web application, getting to know, the web server, what type it is, what is the version number that server, getting to know, the actual platform, whether it's, Linux, what type of Linux, what version, or whether it's Windows, Microsoft Windows. So yeah, you could fingerprint to know the application framework. So attacking Java is different from attacking .NET applications and Angular. So they all have different attack scenarios and payloads. So it's crucial to identify what is the web framework used, so that you craft your attacks based on this information. So if you don't know what application framework you are attacking, then how could you craft your attacks? Because, if you want to attack using, a test for cross-site scripting, so injecting JavaScript on Angular is different than injecting JavaScript on a Java-based application. So yeah, it's crucial to know every detail about the environment, a web server, web framework, the platform.
Nice. So it sounds kind of complicated. So are there any tools you can help use you for the information gathering piece of it?
Yeah, there are great tools, the Netcat, the OpenSSL could, you could banner grab, make a connection with the server and see what that connection dumps. So you could read the version number of the service you are connected to. And also you could, use Nmap because it has a magnificent service identification feature. Yeah, everybody uses it. It's a great feature. And it also navigates all the ports on the server. Not only the ports that we know, the 443 and 80 ports. And there is the Wapalizer. It's a cool plugin. It analyzes the application. And when you visit any web application and you have the plugin installed in your browser and you click it, it shows all the client-side components that is used to build that site.
That sounds cool. I've never heard of that either. So it's just a simple plugin in Chrome or something you could just add in and look on any application. Nice. Cool. So once you have the tools, I think you also go into things called enumerating hidden web apps and searching for info leakage. So once again, as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of a newbie, so I'm not sure. What is info leakage in security?
Information leakage, where sometimes developers leave important information right there in the source code. It's either dumped in their GitLab or their source code repository, or it could be in the lying around in the HTML client-side code of the application. So in the metadata information, you could find keys you can use to connect to backend service the application uses. You can find, information about the infrastructure, that you could find information about the subnet of the infrastructure. You could find information about backend systems, the subnet, like the database server IP address, the message queues. It could give easily important information for attackers to pursue or take on their attack from that starting point.
Gotcha. So I don't know if sometimes people release like secrets to GitHub by mistake. Is that what you mean by information leakage, or metadata, or can someone use comments that they don't know that it's actually providing an attacker information they can use to attack them?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it could be anything. It could be, leakages in comments. It could be, a JavaScript code that could have a client-side key that could be used to connect to the backend service. You could have also comments that show IP addresses for the backend services. And also, you could find information in the source code repositories. Most probably, you could find username and passwords for accounts that, for a hacker, if a hacker found that source code and downloaded it and, extracted the username and password, they could exploit that service or connect to that service using that account and does their thing.
Awesome. And I highly recommend everyone check out this course because it's easier to actually see it in action. A lot of great examples. So definitely check out web application, penetration testing, information gathering at Pluralsight. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. Okay, before we go, is there one piece of actionable advice you can give to someone to help them with their security testing efforts?
Yeah, the most important thing for security testers is to practice. There are a ton of attacks out there. There are many web application frameworks used. So the best thing is always to keep your skills sharpened and up to date with the newer vulnerabilities that arise in the framework. So they could always find there are many sources for security and penetration testers, security experts and penetration testers to practice on. So the most important thing to keep up to date with the security vulnerabilities and tools.
Absolutely. And the best way to find or contact you?
Well, yeah, they could contact me on my LinkedIn profile.
Awesome. Thanks again for your security testing awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/S43. And while you're there, make sure to click on the Try Today link under the exclusive sponsor section to learn all about Micro Focus Fortify, which is the recognized market leader in application security. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate and review it in iTunes? Reviews really do matter in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Security Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack security testing awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Security Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.